Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eastwood for Life fan, and this is a small video of me remembering the old VHS and Betamax movie rental stores back in the early 80s, where we used to rent our movies of home entertainment. And this booklet here is actually the very first booklet of a catalogue of movie titles that were available to us in the UK to rent certain movie titles. And it's in nice condition, 1982, and inside we'll have the original covers of these movies. And before we get through the booklet and talking about the 80s, I'd like to send out a big shout out to a fellow YouTuber from the UK, goes by the name of 80's Film Fan. If you haven't subbed to his great channel, please do so. You will not be disappointed. A very knowledgeable guy who's big into his horror and cult movies. So I will leave the link to his channel down below. So let's get through this catalogue. And actually this store was a TV rental store, and they decided to become the very first store to rent movies out. So the new era had come where we didn't have to go to the cinema to watch the latest movies in the comfort of your own home. And renting these movies out you could hire these movies out for £1 to £1.50 per night. These are the popular titles: the Walter Hill classic, The Warriors and The Deer Hunter. And these early rental stores, they didn't have multi-copies of titles. You didn't have like 10 copies per title. It was only the one or two copies. I mean, if there was a popular new release, they might have got 2 or 3 copies. The Rocky movies with Sly Stallone, big movies. I remember renting. And I used to go in these movie stores and dream about watching certain movies, going through the shelves of the chunky cases, saying I wouldn't mind watching that movie and that movie and that movie. I always used to get drawn into the gory covers or the action-packed movie covers. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a popular Jack Nicholson comedy. This catalogue shows the old XX rating from back in the day. The Blue Lagoon, a young Brooke Shields movie. Chariots of Fire was a very big hit in the cinema and VHS stores in the UK, as it was a British movie. 20th Century Fox, one of the big movie rental companies. Jesus Christ Superstar. The Jazz Singer and Tommy. Two John Travolta movies that were watched by many people. Grease with Olivia Newton-John and Saturday Night Fever. I didn't really rent out many musical movies. I was kind of interested in the horror movies and the action movies in the early 80s. Jaws, big movies, the first 2. Convoy. This movie here, The Driver, starring Ryan O'Neal, I reckon was probably influenced by the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling. Very similar storyline. Well, I actually preferred The Driver with Ryan O'Neal. And this was the very first movie that I rented, The Enforcer, as I remembered watching The Good, the Bad and the Ugly on TV and being mesmerised in watching that epic movie with my father. And when we joined a video shop in 1983, I remember him asking me which movie did I want to rent out, and I always remembered this cover, The Enforcer, with Harry Callahan holding the badge. So that was my very first movie that I rented out, and very good cop thriller. Enter the Dragon, very popular Bruce Lee movie that was on Warner Home Video. The Mad Max movies were watched by quite a lot of people. That made Mel Gibson into a worldwide star. The Outlaw Josie Wales, Easy Rider. And these are the original movie VHS covers, or Betamax. Escape to Victory was a fun watch, seeing Sylvester Stallone and Pele and Bobby Moore in a movie together. That's what the covers, the cases used to look like, thick and chunky. The Street Fighter, as it was known in Europe, but it's also known as Hard Times in other countries. Charles Bronson as the bare knuckle fighter. The horror and thriller section used to be pulled into picking up the covers and seeing all the blood and gore on the front and the back. The Beast in the Cellar. Actually, a movie I never did get to watch in the end. But it was covers like this, Carrie, Scanners, Dawn of the Dead and Halloween that really drew me in to wanting to watch these movies. Of course, these movies had the double X rating, and I used to try my luck and trying to rent these movies out as a 13 or 14-year-old. They used to say, "You're not old enough." The Exorcist and Omen 2, two horrific horror movies. Friday the 13th was a big hit among movie fans that were renting movies out in the 80s. Actually, this movie Magic I only just watched recently with Anthony Hopkins. It was a movie that I always wanted to watch. Taxi Driver, very successful Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese film. Dressed to Kill with Michael Caine, a Brian De Palma movie. Alligator is a movie that I've only watched bits of and never did get to watch that movie in full. The comedy section. Stir Crazy was, in the early 80s, one of the most successful and popular movies to rent out. Took me a while to actually rent that movie out. Starring Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. That was on the RCA Columbia label. Private Benjamin, Blazing Saddles was a comedy. I didn't really like that very much. Every Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way You Can. Very funny comedy movies with Clint Eastwood. 10 with Dudley Moore. Smokey and the Bandit always preferred the second one. Pink Panther movies were likeable movies, as well as the Confession movies. There were British sex comedy movies. And back in the day, people used to rent sport videos. Watership Down. These are the 4 EMI video titles. Lord of the Rings, the animated movie. I remember watching that as a kid, or teen, I should say, and haven't seen it since. The sci-fi section were a big hit with young kids, with a younger audience. Battlestar Galactica. That's Buck Rogers. The 25th century, I think. Superman movies with Christopher Reeve. Flash Gordon. A lot of people used to really like that movie. I wasn't a fan of Flash Gordon much. There is Magic, starring Anthony Hopkins, a terrifying love story. Picture of Lord of the Rings there. And people used to rent out children's movies, and nowadays you've got Children's Channel on Sky and Netflix and stuff like that. The Exterminator with Robert Ginty. So guys, list your first movie you ever rented out on video. Be interesting to hear the movie titles that you rented out first. The Black Hole. Never did get round to watching that movie. Pete's Dragon was a very popular movie I enjoyed. Tarzan the Ape Man. Bo Derek was one of the babes that everybody wanted to watch in the 80s. Had a body of a goddess. And this is an advert for RCA Columbia Pictures, of their popular titles. So that is a booklet of me remembering the old movie stores back in the day. So list some of your first movies you ever watched on video. Be interesting to hear what they were. So please sub to 80's Film Fan. Until the next video, guys, take care, stay healthy, and keep on collecting.